The legend of Billy the Kid begins not with a bang, but with a boy. Born Henry McCarty in New York City on November 23, 1859, his origins are murky and often misreported. Some claimed he was born in Indiana or even Ireland, but records confirm New York as his birthplace. After his father's early death, his mother, Catherine, moved the family westward, eventually settling in the frontier town of Silver City, New Mexico. There, young Henry lost his mother to tuberculosis in 1874, when he was just 14 years old, leaving him orphaned and largely unsupervised in a violent and lawless territory. He briefly lived with neighbors and friends, including a boarding house owner named Sarah Brown, who described him as polite and eager to help with chores. What began as simple acts of survival, a hungry boy swiping bread from a windowsill, snatching worn clothes to stay warm, and eventually taking horses for transportation, slowly morphed into a pattern of defiance and desperation. Each theft chipped away at the boy he once was, replacing him with someone who lived by his own code in a lawless world. The streets of Silver City offered no safety net, only temptation and danger, and Henry McCarty, still grieving his mother, found himself slipping deeper into a life where each decision closed the door on redemption a little more. He was first arrested for stealing laundry in 1875, but he escaped, setting the tone for a life always one step ahead of the law. Billy drifted across the American Southwest, working ranch jobs, gambling, and sometimes rustling cattle. He was literate, enjoyed reading dime novels, and was known for his high-pitched voice and easy smile. He spent time in Arizona Territory and allegedly killed his first man, a blacksmith named Frank Windy Cahill, during an altercation in 1877. Though Billy claimed self-defense, the killing forced him back to New Mexico as a fugitive. His time in Arizona also left him with the nickname, the Kid, due to his youthful looks and small stature. He stood about 5 feet 7 inches and weighed around 135 pounds, but his wiry frame and agility gave him an edge in shootouts and escapes. Under various aliases, including William H. Bonney, the name that would become infamous, Billy became embroiled in the Lincoln County War in 1878. The conflict wasn't just about cattle rustling or territory, but also about power, politics, and economic control. Two rival factions in Lincoln County, New Mexico, battled for dominance. On one side were the established powers, led by Lawrence Murphy and James Dolan, who controlled much of the local economy. On the other, a newcomer named John Tunstall sought to challenge the monopoly. Billy worked for Tunstall and grew to respect him. When Tunstall was murdered by Murphy's men, Billy swore revenge. That revenge launched him into the heart of a brutal conflict, joining the Regulators, a vigilante group that sought justice outside the failing legal system. The Lincoln County War was a chaotic, bloody affair marked by betrayals and shifting allegiances. Billy's most infamous act during this period was the assassination of Sheriff William Brady, a Murphy ally. On April 1, 1878, Billy and several Regulators ambushed Brady in broad daylight, killing him in the street. Though it was retribution, it sealed Billy's image as a dangerous outlaw. Over the next few months, the war devolved into a violent standoff, culminating in the infamous 5-day siege known as the Battle of Lincoln. Billy and his fellow Regulators were pinned down in a house that was eventually set ablaze, the flames crackling louder with each passing minute as smoke choked the air and bullets shattered windows like thunderclaps. Inside, the walls trembled under the barrage, and the heat grew unbearable. Imagine Billy crouched low in the haze, shirt soaked with sweat, revolver in hand, calculating every breath, every move, while the smell of burning wood mingled with gunpowder. The Regulators had nowhere to run, and the fire crept closer with each heartbeat, illuminating their faces with a flickering orange dread. Every sound outside, the shout of an enemy, the stomp of boots, the whistle of wind through broken glass, signaled a possible death blow. Yet somehow, Billy spotted an opening, a narrow path through gunfire and smoke, and bolted into the night, disappearing into the hills like a phantom. He narrowly escaped and disappeared into the surrounding hills. Although the battle effectively ended the Lincoln County War, it did not bring peace. Billy continued his outlaw life, becoming a target of lawmen and bounty hunters alike. He roamed the vast expanse of the New Mexico territory, hiding out in canyons and villages, often taking refuge with Mexican-American families who sympathized with him. He was fluent in Spanish and reportedly had several romantic relationships with young women in the communities he visited. Yet even as a fugitive, he maintained a degree of loyalty and honor that surprised some of his contemporaries. He often refused to shoot unarmed opponents and was known to treat Hispanic laborers and Native Americans with more respect than many of his peers. After the war, the violence didn't stop. Billy remained a wanted man, and his notoriety grew. He was credited with killing anywhere from 4 to 21 men, though historians agree the real number is likely closer to 4 to 9. He became both a symbol of rebellion and a scapegoat for the lawlessness plaguing the Southwest. In 1879, he wrote to New Mexico's new governor, Lew Wallace, offering to testify against the killers of Tunstall in exchange for amnesty. Wallace seemed open to the deal, and even met with Billy in person. But politics and bureaucracy intervened. Though Billy kept his end of the bargain, Wallace did not, and the promised pardon never came. Feeling betrayed, Billy returned to outlaw life. He continued rustling cattle and horses, forming a loosely organized gang that operated across New Mexico and Texas. His charm and elusive nature frustrated lawmen and enchanted the public. He became the stuff of dime novels and newspaper headlines. One of the most compelling things about Billy was his ability to escape. He was arrested multiple times and escaped nearly every time, often in daring fashion. In one lesser-known escape in 1880, he reportedly slipped his handcuffs with a hidden wire and leapt from a moving train. He was also rumored to have faked illnesses to create opportunities for escape. His final and most dramatic escape came in April 1881, after he was captured by Sheriff Pat Garrett, a former friend turned pursuer. Billy was tried and convicted for the murder of Sheriff Brady and sentenced to hang. Awaiting execution, he was held in the Lincoln County Courthouse, heavily guarded. Yet Billy managed to obtain a hidden pistol and in a split second turned the tables. As Deputy James Bell escorted him down the courthouse stairs, the sharp report of a gunshot echoed through the dusty corridor. Bell staggered and collapsed, clutching his chest, while Billy bolted up the stairs, heart pounding and adrenaline surging through his veins. He moved with lightning speed, retrieving a shotgun left unattended in another room, sweat mixing with gunpowder in the air as he prepared for the next confrontation. As he tried to flee, and then retrieved a shotgun left in another room. When Deputy Bob Ollinger returned from lunch, Billy ambushed and killed him, using his own weapon. He then broke the leg irons off his feet with a pickaxe and rode out of town on a stolen horse, reportedly calling out to bystanders with a grin. The escape was so daring that newspapers across the country reported on it with astonishment. But Billy's freedom would not last long. Garrett, under pressure to restore order, hunted him relentlessly. On July 14, 1881, Garrett tracked Billy to Fort Sumner, New Mexico. According to Garrett's account, he entered a darkened room and shot Billy once in the chest, killing him instantly. Billy was just 21 years old. His death was as dramatic as his life, violent, swift, and shrouded in uncertainty. Some doubted Garrett's version of events. Over the years, rumors swirled that Billy had escaped once more and lived under an alias. Whispers floated through saloons and dusty towns that he was seen riding through Texas or farming quietly in Mexico. Picture a grizzled old man slipping into a cantina, his eyes darting cautiously, a faint smile curling under a weathered hat. Could it have been him, watching the world forget? These stories, though largely discredited by DNA evidence and historical consensus, fed the mythos that Billy the Kid was too clever, too lucky, or too wild to be gunned down so young. At least 2 men would later claim to be the real Billy the Kid, though DNA evidence and historical consensus have largely discredited these stories. In one case, an old man named Brushy Bill Roberts attempted to obtain a pardon in the 1950s, claiming he was the real Billy. His story captivated the public and led to renewed interest in Billy's life, but most historians regard it as a hoax. Despite or perhaps because of his violent end, Billy the Kid became an enduring American icon. Within months of his death, newspapers, inexpensive novels, and oral histories began transforming him into a romantic anti-hero. Writers exaggerated his exploits, painting him as a Robin Hood of the Southwest or a misunderstood youth caught in a corrupt system. The real Billy was a far more layered and intriguing figure than legend suggests. While he certainly committed crimes, many of them were driven by the social and political chaos of his time. He wasn't a cold-blooded killer, but he wasn't innocent either. The truth lies somewhere in between. He was a young man who, thrust into a world of shifting loyalties and violence, chose survival on his own terms. Pop culture embraced Billy the Kid with a fervor unmatched by most historical outlaws. He appeared in hundreds of books, movies, and songs. Films like Young Guns and Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid brought his story to new generations, each time reshaping his image. Some portrayals made him a misunderstood rebel, others a vicious killer. Musicians from Bob Dylan to Billy Joel referenced him in lyrics. Even now, Billy the Kid draws tourists to the deserts of New Mexico, eager to walk the same dusty streets and see the places where legend and reality blur. Museums, reenactments, and historical markers celebrate his legacy, reflecting our ongoing fascination with the thin line between law and chaos. Historians have debated Billy's legacy for over a century. Was he a victim of circumstance, shaped by a ruthless frontier, or a manipulative outlaw who reveled in fame and violence? Evidence suggests that he was remarkably adaptable, navigating dangerous territory with both charisma and cunning. He formed friendships easily, was known for his sense of humor, and even showed mercy at times. He played guitar, danced at local fiestas, and had a knack for making people like him. Yet he was also capable of ruthless action when threatened. This duality is what makes Billy the Kid such a compelling figure. He was both a mirror of his era and a symbol of resistance against unjust power. As with many legends, the more we learn about the real man, the more he defies simple categorization. Even today, new theories and discoveries about Billy the Kid continue to emerge. In 2010, New Mexico's then Governor Bill Richardson seriously considered a posthumous pardon, reopening debates about justice, legacy, and redemption. Though the pardon was ultimately denied, the conversation proved how deeply Billy still resonates in American culture. In 2021, researchers used digital imaging and facial recognition tools to analyze rare photographs, trying to confirm the few known images of Billy, which remain an ongoing debate among historians. His appeal endures not just because of his gunfights or escapes, but because his story captures the essence of a turbulent time in American history. He's more than a figure from the past. He's a lens through which we view the myths and truths of the Old West. Whether seen as a hero, a villain, or something in between, Billy the Kid remains a powerful reminder of a time when the line between right and wrong was drawn not by laws, but by those who dared to challenge them. Thank you for watching. If you learned something new or just love a good story, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a journey into the past.